Oh, hold on. We're gonna need a little cauldron in our life today. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video. And today things are going to get a little bit wild. Discord user Girian donated to see an Agatha's Soul Cauldron combo deck list. And there's a lot going on with this card. So I'm going to try to walk through this thing's abilities and then show you what it can do within the context of Legacy. So first, you can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Least important part. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So as you can imagine, today's deck list is going to feature a very large number of creatures with strong activated abilities, and then Agatha's Soul Cauldron can exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So conceptually, what we're looking to do today is exile creatures that have activated abilities from our own graveyard. When we do that, we put that activated ability onto any creature that has a +1/+1 counter. So note that it's not like this and this are tied together. So any creature forever is going to have the activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So this can be really powerful. Here is today's deck list, which is essentially a Boros Bomberman deck. More on that name in a second. Featuring a Gyruda Doom of Depths companion. Where to start? Let's start with some Agatha's Soul Cauldron combos. Let's say that you exile a Phyrexian Devourer, and now you have a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Agatha's Soul Cauldron gives the activated abilities specifically to this new creature. Now, we can exile the top card of our library to put X +1/+1 counters on Phyrexian Devourer, where X is the exiled card's mana value. And there's no limit to the number of times we can do this. With the original Phyrexian Devourer, when its power is 7 or greater, it's a bust, and you sacrifice this. But the creature does not gain that ability. It only gains the activated abilities. So, let's do something simple. Let's say that you have 2 Goblin Engineers and your opponent has 1 blocker. You attack with both Goblin Engineers, you tap Agatha's Soul Cauldron to exile your Phyrexian Devourer, and put a counter on whichever one your opponent doesn't block, and they are dead, because you can just repeatedly exile cards from the top of your library until you've exiled mana value equal to their life total. It's that easy to get a kill. Now, beyond that, you can also turn every creature into a Walking Ballista. Tap Agatha's Soul Cauldron, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, remove that counter, and bam, everything's Walking Ballista. And if you also have Phyrexian Devourer in the mix, you can then exile cards, put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on your creatures, and then remove them. And I don't think it takes a genius to figure out that, that's going to be sweet. Whew, we're not even halfway done with all the cool stuff in this deck list. All right, next we are going to go on to the Bomberman portion of this deck list, which is kind of an outdated name. It used to refer to, killing your opponent by repeatedly throwing, Pyrite spell bombs at them, but the deck doesn't do that anymore. So the Bomberman archetype refers to an Auriok Salvagers combo with a card like Black Lotus or Lion's Eye Diamond. The idea is you sack LED for 3 mana, you use Auriok Salvager's ability to return the LED, and you're going to replay the LED, and you net 1 mana each time you go through this cycle. The Auriok Salvagers plus LED is then infinite mana. Once you have infinite mana, you will usually cast a Walking Ballista to go and kill your opponent. But sometimes you don't have a Walking Ballista. Sometimes you don't have something to bring back, something to do with the mana. And this is where the Gyruda comes in. A lot of decks in Legacy that are playing Gyruda these days are doing so, kind of for the memes. This deck, kind of actually wants it. The cost of only having even cards in your deck is a real cost. It means that our Urza Saga package in this deck, that we found room for that too, doesn't get to include some things like Shadow Spear. When this ETBs, each player mills 4 cards. Put a creature card with an even mana value from among the milled cards onto the battlefield under your control. So, this does a couple of different things. So, number one, you can mill into a creature, and there's some really cool utility creatures in this deck list, including Goblin Engineer that can tutor your Phyrexian Devourer or Walking Ballista into the graveyard. But, and maybe more importantly, this is a way to turn your infinite mana into looks at a Walking Ballista or another reasonable thing to go and do. Oh yeah, and there's a Karn the Great Creator package as well as another way to get your LED and Walking Ballista out of the sideboard, and we also have some other random cards in the deck list to round things out. And you know what? Fuck it. You can have some initiative cards as a treat from the sideboard in case whatever you're doing in the main deck isn't going to be good. So for example, Karn the Great Creator often ends up being too slow for certain matchups, and so you can just board in something that clocks your opponent. Let's go big screen for a second here. So Bomberman combo deck lists are something that traditionally I haven't wanted to play on this channel, because just LED into Walking Ballista forever is kind of miserable to just physically click through. But I've been told that this newer version of the deck list featuring the cards that I just talked about, like Phyrexian Devourer and Agatha Soul Cauldron, just ends up killing in a much cleaner way, and you don't actually have to execute the combo all that many times. So I'm very legitimately excited to try this one out and see how it feels. If you end up needing to buy some Agatha Soul Cauldrons, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your next order. And if you're looking for ways to support me directly, consider becoming a YouTube member. You get early access to all of my videos. You get them right after I'm done recording and uploading them. Let's battle. All right, let's figure out how Magic the Gathering cards work. I'm on the play. The hand's probably not a mulligan. It's a little weird, because I'm not quite to Metalcraft. And I can choose to blow my Lotus Petal to play a card on turn 1. But if I do so, Mox Opal is further away from being relevant. So I think I am going to play out my artifact mana, but not immediately expend Mox Opal. I don't know, maybe I just play the Canonist. That's 2 artifacts. Land into Soul Cauldron is 3. Alright, I think I've changed my mind. This just hedges against combo, but will be worse against something like a Wasteland on this initial plateau, and worse against a natural in-hand Lightning Bolt or something. Delta. Delta can go a lot of directions these days. Looks like Delver. It is Delver. Alright, so just in case you're not super familiar with this wording, each player who's cast a non-artifact spell can't cast additional non-artifact spells, which, in the constraints of Legacy, usually means everybody gets 1, but not always. 2 card types in graveyards for purposes of DRC. Alright. Send them. Opponent's at 17. We're going to drop a Saga. And notably, I could play Cratermaker, and some portion of the time I get to use that to remove DRC. I think I'm supposed to just play Soul Cauldron because it enables my Mox Opal, and that's really, really, really important. I would hate losing this to just a daze. I'm fine losing it to a force of will or a force of negation. I do, in fact, lose it to a daze. Yeah, and this Mox Opal not being on is part of the reason why I didn't necessarily want to just immediately go and crack Lotus Petal. So I would love to draw like a 0-cost artifact off the top. That's not a Mox Opal. Ooh. So now Mox Opal's pretty far away from working. We're okay as long as we don't get Wastelanded. If we get Wastelanded as a follow-up, it's a massive kick in the teeth, though. 19. Life is fine. Would I like to make an Urza Saga token? Or would I like to attempt to remove DRC while it is removable? These Urza Saga tokens are going to get outside of bolt range very quickly. I think DRC is not the problem. Something like a Murktide Regent is instead. Alright, confirmed Grixis Delver. Alright, this is what we did not want to see. And notably, that Shadow Spear that I talked about previously would be really good in this circumstance. So we're going to go ahead and keep growing tokens. I think I am going to get an LED. So this is a 4/4. I can turn it into a 5/5. I think I'm supposed to just play Urza Saga, though. I don't mind playing a Crater Maker. I don't care if it eats a daze. Like, this is not what this game is about. This game is about whether or not these construct tokens can out-aggro Murktide Regent, or whether or not I can top deck Bomberman combo. So they're currently 4/4s. I Urza Saga, they're 5/5s. I Rustveil Bridge, they are 6/6s. There's some things like Orcish Bowmasters that can produce multiple blockers that can make my life really, really, really awkward. So here's to hoping that doesn't happen. We'd really like to take game 1, because Meltdown is brutal in post-sideboard games. Alright, opponent going a little deeper here with a Bauble, but they don't get to draw that card immediately. They do, however, turn this into 9 damage this turn. This is not quite a 2-turn clock. So I don't think I'm supposed to like crack LED and then try to kill this while something is on the stack. I don't think that's what this game is about. Like, as things stand, I technically have the faster clock. My opponent is better at pivoting, and Lightning Bolt can change things, as can something like Orcish Bowmasters. I'm at 10. They get a card. Cavernous Souls. Is there any Gyruda angle? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 4, 7, 8. It would cost me 9 to do this, so no. We're just on this train. If my opponent has Bowmasters, it just pings at my face, blocks, and goes from there. So we're dead to Bowmasters or Lightning Bolt. After no blocks, we party. Who's dead? Is it me or is it you? Oh? Not me yet. Alright, you got it? So note that this does damage to creatures, not damage to players, and that Lightning Bolt kills me. Couldn't quite turn the corner on that one. So I don't like Karn against Delver, just as a general statement. I have a lot of different ways that I can play this game. I can board in another LED to have a better chance at comboing off. I can board in initiative creatures, have a turbo angle, board in Crater Makers as more removal. I'm not super hyped about Canonist. I could also play Leylines. This is where I just don't have matchup reps to kind of know. I think I am going to round out the combo ability while bringing in some removal spells. If I board in Bridge, Engineer can find it. And it's good. It's not perfect because, you know, Brazen Borrower exists as an out to it. But the issue with doing this is that that would shut off Gyruda. as this is an odd card. The companion text is based on the starting deck. So I don't know where that shakes out. I think I'll keep one Karn as a tutor for Bridge specifically. I don't know, I could just play this as one more artifact. Let's just play that as one more artifact for Metalcraft for the 2 Mox Opals. This is Sketch, but I'm going to keep it. The hope is that either Chalice resolves and buys me a large amount of time, which I don't think is going to happen, or I either rip a land or some 0-cost artifacts off the top. I don't play Mox Opal this turn in case my opponent does some sort of weird meltdown nonsense. It's just weird that Chalice resolved. Like, if I'm my opponent, that's very good. So I'm going to play Saga. I'll play Opal now. We'll jam Soul Cauldron. This turns on Metalcraft, which allows me to play another card. While I'm pretty sure my opponent does not have counter magic, I'm going to play Ingenious Smith. If I lose Mox Opal to Meltdown at some point, I would like to have a Lotus Petal. So I'm going to take Lotus Petal over Canonist. And I could just play Lotus Petal here to scale this up. I'm not going to do that. All right, Rustvale Bridge. So this gives me an artifact to play to scale up Smith on my own turn. I'm going to attack for 2. And now, notably, I can scale up Smith on my opponent's turn by activating Urza's Saga. This activates once per turn, but it's not like that's only on my own turn or anything. Oh, don't like that. That makes Meltdown so much better. Scale up. And then at end turn, we will start just keeping my opponent's graveyard in check. A Walking Ballista. Real good with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. How do I approach this turn cycle? I think like this. I think it's cast, scale up, play this card for 2 around a daze, attack for 11. Opponent's at 6, and is pretty much dead when I want them to be dead, because I can sacrifice Walking Ballista. Yeah, so I can sacrifice Walking Ballista, put my opponent to 4, exile with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and then remove counters to just ping my opponent and kill them. I didn't need to do that, which is why I didn't pull the trigger on it in case something would go wrong, but that's a sweet amount of reach. I don't know why my opponent kept their hand. Like, they were on the draw against a known Chalice of the Void combo deck. I think you have to keep a counter magic hand on the draw. Greater Makers and Canonists feel kind of mid. I could play Leyline of the Void in those spots. It would reduce the number of times that I just absolutely get punked by a Murktide Regent or a DRC early. I don't hate that on the draw. It's just weird to board out removal that's also good against Delver. But okay. I also don't get to play Pithing Needle in this deck because of Gyruda. So this hand has Cavern of Souls for days, but I don't think this does anything at a legacy appropriate speed. I guess I can turn 1 uncounterable, get LED, and maybe turn 4 combo off, but if I go for a Phyrexian Devourer in graveyard, Agatha's Soul Cauldron can represent a kill very easily, but it's relatively disruptible right now. I'm going to mulligan, because specifically, I have amazing Leyline of the Void hands that I can instead hit. This is incredibly awkward. This is worse than the 7 by a lot. I'm gonna Junk Plateau. Um, we're bad against most things that my opponent can do here. I do not regret mulliganing the 7, though. I just don't think that 7 wins easily. And I am trying to win easily. Like, to be very clear about it. This is scary. So I've boarded out my Crater Makers, which are good against these sorts of things. So now Chalice of the Void is not even a must counter spell anymore. Like, my opponent can just, like, let a Chalice resolve, wasteland me, force a lot of my relevant spells. This can happen. We'll name Human. Unless both are randomly an Engineer? Soldier, yeah. Alright, name Human. Cast a Chalice. I get Dazed. I think Daze is a fine counterspell to use on a Chalice. I would not Force of Will or Force of Negation one, I don't think, though, at this stage. Delver flips to Force of Will. And just like that, I am in a lot of trouble. This brings me to 15. We are not hitting well off the top here. New Chalice doesn't really do anything. And my opponent will fire off a Brainstorm in response. That's fine. My opponent will have instant artifact land. A sorcery like Ponder, I think, puts this game into unwinnable territory. I don't know. I can still top deck Auriok Salvagers. And just Auriok Salvagers LED. Play a Chalice on 5 after going infinite to stop Force of Will, and then play Gyruda. Like, that is a line. I'm still on outs. I get bolted. I am potentially on a 2-turn clock, meaning that I have to win on my next turn. If this turns into a 3-3, I am just literally on a 2-turn clock. I think Wasteland is unbeatable. I think that's the wrong land to... Well, maybe not. No, I take that back. I can just get the white mana to activate Auriok Salvagers from LED initially. I was thinking about the activated ability, but it does not matter here. I have so many bad top decks right now, just by the way. And my opponent also has a Murktide Regent. Cool. I believe I am on no outs. Yeah, the stuff in the air is just 9 damage. I am dead. GG's.
Today's video is sponsored by Eminence Gaming. Their command tower software that they use to run events is awesome, and in January, I'm going to be attending another one of their events, The Boil, in Atlanta at Charlie's Collectible Show, which is, no joke, one of the coolest venues that I've ever played at. If you are interested in some CEDH and or meeting me, consider checking it out.
Alrighty. My opening hand has a turn 1 Chalice of the Void and some decent combo pieces. My opponent is probably playing an artifact-based combo deck list. We're hoping that they don't play a 1-drop this turn before I can play my Chalice. That is most unfortunate. If I can get to 4 mana before they just absolutely pop off, Karn the Great Creator can put a real pinch on what my opponent is doing. This is a destroy, right? Yeah, it is a destroy. Got it. I'll play out some 0-cost cards. I think I am going to stop future keys from coming into play by playing a Chalice on 1. I have another line, but it involves sacrificing the Lotus Petal. Like, if I sacrifice the Lotus Petal, I can, like, nuke Manifold Key or another artifact of my choice. But I think it is just stronger to hope to weather 1 turn with Chalice and then play Karn. Sure. Alright, we are going big mana here. Fuck. Alright. I am presumably still dead. My opponent just gets to draw a gajillion cards and have a gajillion mana. I'm going to update you when I'm dead. Alright, my opponent has played a Karn the Great Creator. They can now tutor for a Walking Ballista and kill me. There it is. I'm not going to make them click through it now that they have shown me lethal. So I died on turn 2 through a relevant piece of interaction, which is rough. Note that Aethersworn Canonist, not necessarily a good card here. Goblin Crater Maker has some amount of additional useful text here. So the combo portion here is kind of weird because like we are both Karn decks and my opponent is a faster Karn deck than I am on average. So wanting to be on artifact combo is sketchy. I kind of want to just bring in Caves of Chaos Adventurers as a pivot. That probably kills my opponent in about 2 turns. Just play it, attack for 7, trap 19, assume they do 2 points of Ancient Tomb or ring damage to themselves at some point. I think I'm going to keep LEDs for Mox Opal specifically, but go down 3 Goblin Engineers for Caves of Chaos Adventurer. And like LED can still do the whole Bomberman combo thing. This cannot make a turn 2 initiative creature, right? Turn 1, Soul Cauldron, Mox Opal, turn 2, 3 mana. No. Is not fast enough. This is frankly also just not fast enough. Yeah, I think I have to mulligan this. I think this is going to be a very tough matchup. My opponent's on 7. I can keep a functional 5-card Urza Saga hand that I think in no capacity has the ability to win the game, or I can continue to mulligan. I am going to continue to mulligan. I just do not believe that any of the hands that I've seen have the capacity to win. 1, 2, 3. I can keep a 3-card hand and hope that a turn 3 Karn the Great Creator is possible by drawing a soul land. This is probably about as good as it gets, but this is a absolute disaster. I keep Smith. Smith gives me another look at something like a Lotus Petal, and if I hypothetically were to get double Lotus Petal, I could do some cool things. But like my opponent is probably going to some extent pop off on turn 1. Like this is why I was trying to mulligan for a turn 2 Karn or a faster combo hand very aggressively. I will Cavern of Souls on human, and maybe some portion of the time I hit a Lotus Petal and still get to Karn next turn. Nope. Walking Ballista or Bridge. Bridge guarantees a turn 4 Karn. I think I'm effectively dead or literally dead by then, so I'm going to pick up Walking Ballista. And we're going to hope to draw a Lotus Petal. But with both Voltaic Key, with multiple keys and Mystic Forge here, I expect to die. Like, my opponent's deck is just the faster artifact deck. My combos are now shut off. Sure. I'm dead, probably, if they have a 0-cost artifact they can tutor for a Paradox Engine. And Voltaic Key untap, sacrifice both Lotus Petals, cast a 0-drop, and then kind of churn through their deck using Mystic Forge. What did that Karn just do? Cast Lotus Petal. Oh, I see they haven't used the Karn. They untapped Mystic Forge. Okay. So, here's the Karn minus. Walking Ballista? That is strange to me. So, I can kill a colorless card of my choice. However, there's 2 incredibly relevant colorless cards here. 3 if you count the Walking Ballista that my opponent can just funnel infinity mana into. Yeah. I think I am going to kill the Karn. The Karn is not an artifact, so the Karn is bad against my own Karn. However, Mystic Forge with multiple untaps and this much mana in play probably leads to my death one way or another. Sure. 4 mana, the 1 ring with a bunch of untaps. I'll update you when I'm dead. Alright, there is now a Paradox engine in play. What the fuck is this? Beginning your upkeep, sacrifice it. When you discard a card this way, destroy it on land. Okay, that's irrelevant. I'm either dead or I'm not, and I'm probably dead. Alright, my opponent is now resolving a Mycosynth Lattice. They had the ability to just like pump a whole bunch of mana into Walking Ballista and kill me. But at this point, I can't really play anything else. I am just going to concede.
Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is an absolutely awesome place to keep all of your deck lists. I keep all of my personal deck lists there as well, in addition to all of the stuff that I do for the stream. And in the future, they're going to have a social media site on here too. So if you're worried about other certain websites dying, maybe join Moxfield, put your deck lists up there, and in the future, you'll be there for social media stuff too.
So this hand has no game plan unless Canonist randomly mises a game. Like, this hand has severe issues. If I Cavern of Souls on human to play this, I strand 2 red cards in my hand, and it's not the easiest to turn on Mox Opal right now. I don't like this. I also don't like this, but I don't think it is worth mulliganing either. I'm going to get rid of Karn as the slowest card in this hand. Oh, please don't tell me we're doing the same thing again. Okay, we're not. However, we are going to be playing another deck that is faster than us, and we probably just lose. We are a resilient combo deck rather than a fast combo deck, and I am just not having time to get to that resiliency. Like, I do not have a single valid play other than play LED, which I don't think I am supposed to do because it gives away more information about my deck. Alright, my opponent likes their cards, which is a bad sign for me. I think I'm just going to get run over. Like, my opponent just plays an initiative creature here. Yeah, so I'm going to get attacked for 5, 6, 7-ish damage, followed by 7-ish damage and trap. So I'm basically dead. I need some very specific hits here. I need to play this on human and hit a Lotus Petal, and then I need to draw Auriok Salvagers, which I did not do. I'll take an Agatha's Soul Cauldron and pass the turn. Yeah, so this probably gets forged up. I could see an argument for the... Oh, wow. That seems wrong. I don't know what their hand is, but like, this game was so close to just immediately over if they just go down that left side. Yeah, so I am going to be able to actually block and absorb 2 damage this turn, which I will happily do. So next turn, I get hit for maybe still lethal. So 5, 10 with copy, 13 guaranteed, potentially more with explore. I am going to absorb some points of life. I need Auriok Salvagers very badly. 5, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11. My line is Plateau, play Crater Maker, destroy Reflection of Kiki Jiki, and then top deck Auriok Salvagers for the win. And note that that will still lose to Solitude. Alright, 10-ish incoming damage. Alright, Ancient Tomb in Exile, Seasoned Dungeoneer gets a counter, revealing Lotus Petal. I'm at 4, and another Fable. Okay, I did not top deck the correct card, and accordingly, I am very, 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 very much dead. That is frustrating. So Chalice of the Void is terrible and needs to come out. Karn the Great Creator is too slow and needs to come out. Canonist is pretty awful. So that means I go up on combo cards. I fill with Crater Makers and Caves of Chaos Adventurers. And then that's still not enough cards. Yikes. I can play 2 Canonists as just literal creatures that have power and toughness. Or I can play 2 Karn the Great Creators as a tutor for Ensnaring Bridge. but Ensnaring Bridge doesn't beat Initiative. That sucks. I guess I'll play 2 Canonists. It helps with Metalcraft. But my deck is just not fast enough. Yeah, so this hand doesn't do anything. Like, I can play a turn 1 2/2. This is irrelevant. This is bad. I might be keeping it, and I just go turn 1 Ingenious Smith and hope to kind of salvage the hand. I hate this. I think I'm going all in on Urza Saga on turn 1, which is not where I want to be, but it absolutely is where I am. Alright, I hit Lotus Petal. I'll play that now to scale this up. My goal is to scale up this creature as many times as humanly possible. I'm very bad off versus something like an Archon. Alright, I dodged that bullet. Send it. I'm going to optimize for damage. So that scales this up by 1. Opponent takes 3. These constructs aren't that big, though. I don't lose everything to a Fury, so I guess that's nice. I guess the Moon's pretty bad if that happens. Alright, so I can get an LED and attempt to combo kill my opponent this turn. I'm not going to attempt a combo kill this turn, though. Because if I do so, I just walk into, like, Swords to Plowshares and Friends too easily. So I'm going to get the LED to have the ability to go 4 mana, then LED combo next turn. Alright, let's see how bad this turn is. Okay, touch the Spirit Realm. That's fine. Alright, opponent's at 13. I still haven't figured out why they kept their hand. Like, there has to be... Alright, the answer is they should have mulliganed. I don't understand. Like, I know many people come after me in the comments for mulliganing too aggressively, but, like, the London mulligan is the strongest thing that exists in Magic the Gathering, and not using it is foolish. I am not a fan of keeping hands that I do not believe are capable of winning the game. And my opponent did not produce any creatures that game and played a single removal spell that is maybe a temporary removal spell. So I don't get it. Alright. Do I keep it? The turn 1 Saga LED. Turn 2 tap city, make a 3/3. Like, do I think that's fine? It loses to my opponent's best draw, like, very easily. If they end up keeping a middling draw like last time, this is good enough to win. They're on 5. That is a Cavern on Human and pass. That is fantastic. My hand got much better. Much, much better. I play out all 3 pieces of artifact mana. Drop an Urza Saga. Now I have Metalcraft to play Ingenious Smith. Get a Lotus Petal. Play a Lotus Petal to scale this up. And now I have a very, very, very real amount of power with Urza Saga spread across multiple bodies. Fury is not going to get in the way of that happening. I am looking to dodge Magus of the Moon specifically, which is just currently incredibly good against my hand. Null Rod. I don't give a shit. Null Rod does not matter. Like, it stops some things. Like, don't get me wrong. However, it does not stop the Urza Saga, which is the way that I win this game. Yeah, so I think my opponent's keep this time is reasonable. Turn 2 Null Rod is incredibly hateful against my deck, but we got very lucky with that Mox Opal draw to just get ahead on board strongly, and the Null Rod didn't line up well versus what I had. We do probably lose that one if my opponent just makes a turn 1 or 2 Magus of the Moon, though. Okay, my opening hand doesn't do anything here. I just don't have enough mana to be functional. This hand sucks too. Like, I don't turn to Karn. Even if I did, it wouldn't really be good. I think I keep it and hope that my deck does things. I'm gonna get rid of the Karn, I think. Like, I'm just fully not ready to fish for combo pieces with Karn as of right now. And I think I'm hoping that I steal a game with Chalice of the Void, or otherwise top deck. Good God. Fuck. I do not want to be playing against other Ancient Tomb decks. They are just faster than me. God damn it. Like, I can't keep up with this deck. I won the last one because my opponent mulliganed poorly in game 2. But I have damn close to a 0-card hand against this deck. So, I'm going to play Bridge as a tapped land, play out my Mox Opal, and I might end up having to play Chalice of the Void on 0 to turn on Mox Opal so that I can play Karn and minus for Bridge. Because I am in for a world of hurt. I would prefer to just draw something like a Lotus Petal so that I don't have to do that. One issue with not playing out the Chalice preemptively is that if my opponent plays an Archon, then that line is no longer available. But if my opponent plays an Archon, I think I'm just dead because I have 2 more non-basic lands in hand, and Cratermaker doesn't kill Archon. Also, this does stop, the whole combo side of my deck list. So I get attacked for 9, and then Trap kills me. I am dead on turn 3. Cool. So, Chalice of the Voids go out. Aethersworn Canonist goes out. Ballista and LED come in. Crater Makers come in. Ugh. Board out Karns, I guess. Play these. Fill with these. Man, my plan for this deck seems awful. Alright. I am a mana source away from having a combo kill. I have Salvager's LED Ballista. I have 3 of the 4 mana already available. Ingenious Smith looks for something like a Lotus Petal next turn. And I think I might even just play out Walking Ballista on turn 1 so that that can be in play to contribute towards a Metalcraft count. I am not going to play LED though, because I want to Cavern on Human and then play LED to grow Ingenious Smith. Sure. Okay, there is my last mana. So let's Cavern on Human. Play Smith. Find a Mox Opal. Play a Mox Opal. Scale this up. With 1 more artifact in play, I now have Metalcraft, meaning that I can cast a 2/2, and I have a combo attempt on my own turn. Opponent's at 19. Archon stops a combo attempt. Magus of the Moon does not. Solitude stops a combo attempt. So would like a Swords to Plowshares type card, but that's unlikely. Seasoned Dungeoneer is perfectly fine. So my opponent has 3 unknown cards. It's possible Solitude plus White card are 2 of those. Should be just about everything else that I reasonably expect my opponent to have in their deck. They're doing this weird pause thing right now. It is Solitude. That is the wrong time to use that card. I know that from my side of the table. My opponent doesn't know that. They are just valuing keeping their initiative creature alive, which is fair. But now I know one of their cards is an island, and unless the last one is something spicy like Mindbreak Trap, I just have a deterministic kill here. I guess I should play out a land. We'll put it on Demon. Alright, so here's how the combo works. I Salvagers. Return LED. This produces infinite mana. I then funnel it into Walking Ballista. Alright, so I explained the combo to my opponent, and they were gracious enough to concede. I appreciate that. I don't really have other sideboarding options here, so we're going to go ahead and just submit. I hate that I can't really remove Archon. Like, my deck just doesn't have generic white removal, you know, like the Swords of Plowshares type things that can answer in X3. So I can play Urza Saga, LED on turn 1, and then just keep an Urza Saga-based hand. If I were to draw an Auriok Salvagers with this hand, I do just go infinite because I use LED. No, I don't. I would have to also cast the Goblin Engineer at some point to find a Walking Ballista. Regardless, it's probably fine. My opponent's on 4 cards, so I've got a real chance at stealing this one. But like, for the record, I think this matchup is very bad. It's white mana under there. Magus of the Moon is one of the scariest cards. Archon's pretty bad. Null Rod's fine. Like, we beat Null Rod with current hand very easily with Urza's Saga. And we can't eat top-decked Archon. My opponent has just kept a Null Rod hand. So we will beat them to death with Urza's Saga. And my opponent has shut off their own Chrome Mox as well. Alright, we're going to go ahead and just play Ancient Tomb. We're going to double activate Urza's Saga with the intention of just overrunning my opponent. So some of my hands straight up lose to this Null Rod. This one, luckily, does not. So this is a 3/3, now a 4/4, about to be 5/5s, about to be 6/6s. So this gets me 6, putting my opponent to 14, and then I play 1 artifact on my turn, and it is theoretical lethal damage. Things like a Solitude can temporarily get in the way, but not really be enough to get me there. Alright, opponent has given me the GGs. They're going to go drop from their league. Like, the scoreboard shows that we just beat initiative twice, but, folks, I think we can all agree I got really fucking lucky with my opponent's mulligans. Final round. We're not keeping this one. We have 0 mana sources. This doesn't do anything. Like, especially since one of these mana sources is a disappearing one. I'm going to go to 5. I think a 5-card hand that just has reasonable mana is, like, very clearly better than this. So this is a keep. Raider Maker goes back. Then I have to decide what I'm doing with my life. Do I have liquid metal coating? I don't. I think the highest percentage play for me is to play a turn 1 Chalice of the Void and hope that it steals a game. I am going to not play Mox Opal, because if I draw the white 2-drop, I want to be able to scale it up, whose name I am just totally blanking on. All right. So if this is an Elves deck, we buy a little time. If this is a Cloud Post deck, note that an Elves deck or a Fiend Artisan Elves deck, awkward. And eventually get around this by green sunning for an Allosaurus Shepherd. I don't have true red mana currently for Goblin Engineer. This is not the you know what, let's name Artificer. Maybe not even supposed to use Goblin Engineer yet, but I think I would like to set up for a world where I rip an Agatha's Soul Cauldron and do hot shit. Got an end of turn fetch for a Dryad Arbor. Presumably this is for making Gaia's Cradle good. I have a removal in my sideboard. Alright, that's about what I thought. There is the Cradle. And a Fiend Artisan as follow-up. So I face down Collector Oof next turn. Which is some shit. And, yeah. Still don't have a third artifact for the purposes of Mox Opal. Yes. I'm putting a Ballista. I guess I could put an Agatha's Soul Cauldron in graveyard. It doesn't matter, I'm about to get oofed. But if for some unknown reason my opponent doesn't oof me, then maybe I can put an Agatha's Soul Cauldron into play and accidentally steal a game? Sure. Oh, it's just natural order. Honestly, I am happier to see an Atraxa than a Collector Oof. Like, I'm good with this. Like, you can have all this shit. Like, alright, so they have Grist, Allosaurus Shepherd, Natural Order, and Forest. Sure. My opponent's gonna have to discard one of those. I'm a little surprised they didn't keep the Bojuka Bog. That's just fucking cruel. So, like, this is not on. I don't have red mana for Goblin Engineer. I had a great window to win the game there. And instead I have to pass the turn and do nothing. Can't even put my Gyruda into my hand. So my opponent can Natural Order again. Like, they can Allosaurus Shepherd to ignore Chalice. And do both. This just is mana neutral with a Cradle in play. Sure, that's also mana neutral, so then they can just 4 mana Natural Order away a Reclaimer. And pick up a Collector Roof. Or a Hoof or whatever, you know. The world is their oyster, basically. What delicious thing do you have? It is Hoof. I assume 8 plus 11 plus 9 is more than my life total. We're not going to math it out. Alright. So, Canonist kind of does some stuff. Not really. It's not like this is a Glimpse of Nature deck as it is currently built. Karn is very slow, and Ensnaring Bridge isn't super reliable versus a Green Sun Toolbox package deck that also just plays a handful of Boseijus. I think I'm interested in Karn out to just bring in extra combo pieces and additional removal spells. In no round have I succeeded in being a deck that is faster than my opponent's deck. Alright, got distracted by Twitter for a minute. Let's hop back in it. So, what am I doing with my life? Being awkward? Turn 1 Plateau, maybe play Mox Opal, pass. Turn 2 3 mana, play Soul Cauldron, or play Crater Maker Sacrifice. This does not spark joy. It might just be good enough, though. Alright. I just, like, hate that I can't really present a win on turn 2 very easily. Like, everything has to align absolutely perfectly. And I need to present a win on turn 2 if I am going to race Green Sun for Collector Oof. And even keeping this hand, my opponent may just, like, Thoughtseize and take my best card, and life's bad. Alright, that did not happen. Like, imagine if this is just a Lightning Bolt, and I get to potentially use my mana for something else. Like, having my primary removal cost 3 mana is so bad. Alright. I will pay 3 mana to remove a 1-power creature to set my opponent back, and hopefully buy time for my own hand to do something good. When you're playing against a Gaia's Cradle deck, every card that you set them, every creature that you set them back matters a lot. I guess I could have Walking Ballista for 1 instead. And that ends up accomplishing something similar while keeping the Crater Maker that can remove Hoof for later. Rough. Alright, now I don't play any cards for the rest of the game. Cool. Just play the oof. Just do it to me. Alright, that's fine. That is less fine. That means oof happens next turn. Yep. I don't think this deck statistically has enough mana in it. Like, I have thrown back so many 0 and 1 landers today, and the deck needs to get to 4 mana at minimum to execute combos involving Auriok Salvagers. Alright, it is not an immediate Collector Oof. Are you just going to natural order me instead? They are. Sure. This is 18 damage. Notably, I don't think this is better than producing Collector Oof. Like, I think you just kill me the next turn and don't give me the opportunity to have, for example, City of Traders, Lotus Petal, Auriok Salvagers, LED, go. Like, I conceptually have outs to this, and I have 0 outs to Collector Oof. And my opponent just, like, did not present Collector Oof in any games. It does not matter if I cannot cast any relevant spells, though. We are donezo, and we managed to put 2 wins on the board, both against initiative, which I don't think should have happened. Alright. I fully do not think this is a viable legacy deck. I think the deck design is super cool. But conceptually, I think it has some problems. So, number 1, the deck has 0 pieces of efficient removal. Like, Legacy is a format where Lightning Bolt and Swords to Plowshares are the gold standard of removal, and then below that you have things like Snuff Out that can be free with a cost, Dismember and Fatal Push that, get most things with some slight restrictions. And we are a red-white deck that is choosing to play neither of the premier removal spells that we have access to. So to remove a turn 1 threat, we have a 3 mana play, which maybe is not viable until turn 3, sometimes turn 2. Or if it is a 1/1 specifically, we have a 2 mana removal spell. Otherwise, we have no real removal spells in the 75. So if we count the game where I already had my opponent dead anyway, we Agatha Soul Cauldron comboed once in 5 rounds. And we Auriok Salvager comboed once, maybe twice. That means that I won pretty much all the games that I won on the back of Urza Saga. And if I think back to the initiative games, like, that's exactly what happened. Like, they null-rotted me and I just Urza Saga'd them. So I think this deck is just too slow. Karn the Great Creator is too slow for Legacy in most cases. Unless you're doing something involving, like, Grim Monoliths, Basalt Monoliths, and Keys, where, like, this is a viable turn 1 or frequent turn 2 play. But I mostly just tripped all over my cards this league. Mox Opal was frequently not on. Lotus Petal as a temporary mana source didn't allow me to do things like play both an Auriok Salvagers and a Karn. This one gets a thumbs down from me. Like, I conceptually like the construction of this deck list, but everything's slow. Engineer is slow. Karn is slow. Salvagers is slow. Soul Cauldron is slow. So I think something's got to give, and you have to do something to either speed up this deck or interact more, because we're not racing opposing combo decks. We're not interactive enough for opposing combo decks. We're not racing other Ancient Tomb decks. We don't have removal for Delver decks. We can probably grind versus control, but we didn't face any beans or anything like that. Like that's probably what we want to be facing. You know what? I'm curious about something. I'll be right back. So I remembered that my podcast co-host Brian, aka Bosch and Roll, also recorded a league with this 2 or 3 weeks ago with a list that at a glance was probably a card or two off from what I played. And his concerns were largely the same as mine. And I think he said like he was just afraid of just getting absolutely shit on by something like a Sticker Goblin deck, a Moon Stompy deck, or another Ancient Tomb deck. That just has the ability to go under you. He played against Delver 3 times in his league, managed to win it 2 of the times, and ended up with a 3-2. But I think you have to do something to fix this speed issue. And I didn't watch Brian's matches. Feel free to do that if you want to see some more of this. But this feels like a deck where if this had existed pre the rise of Ancient Tomb on Magic Online, this deck probably would have done really well. But current Legacy is fast, and you've got to do something to keep up. And if you need some cards to keep up, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your next order. Folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya.